Morning, everyone.
Morning. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay.
No. Okay. Caitlin, thank you. And so welcome, everybody. Today is January 16th, and I will be chairing the general finance meeting for today until Chief Hill can arrive. And so to start the agenda, can I have anybody identify media on the line? Seeing none, let's carry right along to changes, deletions, and adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions for today?
If not, I'll move.
Moved by Sherry Lynn, second by
Second.
Audrey. All in favor? Anybody opposed? The agenda is carried. So today we do not have any presentations, so we're going to move right along to the finance minutes of December 19th.
I'll move on a minute.
I'll move on a minute, this Melba.
Okay, moved by Carrie, second by Melba. Any comments, questions, corrections for those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Okay, so we have our first item, the 20-unit elder complex to be built on Harold Road. I'm assuming housing is going to be on the line. Wayne, can you speak to this?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So yes, we were anticipating Lily. So this one is in regards to, it's as it indicates on there, the 20-unit elders complex on Harold Road. So funding had been approved. And the request here is to sole source the project management and the design to Kale Martin and Associates.
Okay. At this time, council, do you have questions? Go ahead.
So I just have a couple, I guess. So Indigenous Services Canada is paying that much, right? And they want council for the remaining, that 400 something. Is that right? Is that how I'm
And
understanding?
Sorry, Shirley. Yes. There is, I'm just trying to find that. Yeah, the total project is 1.72. ISC's portion is the 1.2. The 432 is where, bear with me here.
Okay, so maybe let's defer this because I think we're missing numbers on the motion. And maybe when Lillian gets online, we can bring it back. Does that work? Perfect. I see thumbs up. Let's defer. Okay. So moving right along, welcome Hazel and Donna. And as we're reading these motions, whoever motions it should read it out so the community can hear. So number 6, renewal of loan for White Pines Wellness Center. We have a recommendation. Six Nations of the Grand River has available cash to pay the loan in full at the time of renewal. In the interest of long-term planning and matching cash flows, it's prudent instead to renew the loan for a further term. So is this, Wayne, are you going to speak to the loan renewal for White Pines?
Yes. So as indicated on here, the loan is due for renewal on January 31st of 2023. So there are a couple of options with regards to what we do with the loan at maturity. One would be to pay it off in full. And the other options would be to renew the loan. And if we do renew it, at what length of time do we renew it for? So the recommendation before us is to renew it for a period of 3 years as opposed to a period of 5 years. The previous loans had been renewed at 5 years, but with the interest rate situation, we do anticipate an increase later this month from the Bank of Canada, but all other economic projections are indicating that the interest rates are expected to decrease in the coming years. And we anticipate, or realistically, our thoughts are that they would decrease in 3 years' time. So that's why we're suggesting a 3-year term, at which time the interest rate would be lower, as opposed to if we go out 5 years, we're stuck in the 5-year rate for an additional 2 years if we didn't renew after 3. So again, just to kind of quickly recap, we can either pay it off or we can renew it. And if we renew it, for what length of time do we renew the loan?
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Wayne. I have Greg, Helen, and then Sherry Lynn.
Yeah, can you hear me? I got my thing on. Hi, Wayne. What's the total amount of that loan?
So it will be 1.21, 1,210,000.
Right, and during that 3 years, is that, can we pay it off during that 3 years and without penalty?
With this interest rate proposals that we received, there is no prepayment option. So in short, no, we can't pay it off in full without a penalty.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Helen?
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to find what it would cost to pay it in full, but I don't see that nowhere. What would it cost us if we paid it in full?
That would be the 1.21 million.
1.2?
Yes.
I remember when this came about, this was supposed to get paid off in 10 years. I wonder what happened. This building was, when we were discussing building this building, it was supposed to be paid off in 10 years. I don't know what happened as to why it's still hanging around 20 years. It's been 20 years now. Almost 18 anyway.
Yeah. So
And the reason they don't want to pay it off is because they want to use the money for something else? Is that it?
that's what the
Really?
recommendation is. Yes.
I don't know. Myself, I would rather pay it off than take out another loan, but I guess they know what they're doing.
Okay, Helen. Thanks for your comments. Sherry Lynn?
Yeah, I guess that my question is, what will they be using this money for?
Yep.
And the other part about it is paying it off, because we can't pay it off. We have to wait for the full 3 years. We're in a crisis of infrastructure right now, and we need to really have a plan, a solid plan, I guess, to, if we pay this off, I guess I was looking at more options, those kinds of things, because I'm sitting here thinking pay it off and get a loan for something else, because like I said, we're in a crisis in infrastructure. We need to start building. So those are my questions. So my main one is, what are they going to use the money for if they don't want to pay it off?
So the proceeds, and in conjunction with your other comment as well, Sherry Lynn, with regards to the infrastructure. So in conversation with Darren, the funds would be used for a long-term financial or infrastructure plan. So the funds would be, obviously, they're council funds. So instead of paying off the loan, they would be utilized to address that long-term plan.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm still looking at what does it look like? Because we got some numbers here, but what's the overall goal? That's good. I'm glad to hear that that's in the, Darren has it for long-term infrastructure, but I don't know, I'm sitting here,
Numbers.
where's the numbers? Where's the plan? Where's those kinds of things? That's what I'm looking for. Is Darren on? Maybe you can answer that.
Thank you. Darren?
If council recalls, I did provide a 10-year financial plan, which I worked with Wayne and Jennifer on before Christmas. It's a 10-year plan. It's in the neighborhood of $500 million for 10 years. And what this does is it creates the opportunity for us to rather than pay off a loan, this particular loan, to utilize those funds for investment in that plan, amongst other sources of funds that we have. So this is money that if we pay down the loan or pay off the loan, I should say, it takes away our ability to implement or execute that plan. So there's a lot of elements to that plan. It's quite detailed, and we didn't have an opportunity to go through it in a lot of depth, but it was provided before Christmas. And in conversations with the chief, we're trying to set that as part of an agenda item on the retreat, but perhaps a special meeting is required to go through that. And obviously Wayne would join us to kind of help interpret the numbers related to that plan. So it is all infrastructure related investments.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Okay, Audrey.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, what you're recommending, Darren and team. I agree that we should be investing in our infrastructure plan. And I guess renew it for the 3 years. And if you've done your projecting and your forecasting right, then we should basically, it should benefit us so that it's lower now. And then when it goes up, we'll be in for 3 years. And when it goes down, hopefully we will get it just at the right time. So that would be ideal. But my one question is, you did send us the infrastructure plan, but it was so small, I couldn't read it. So I would appreciate if we were able to get a larger copy of it, or some way of actually seeing and reading the small print. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Audrey. Over to Greg.
Yes, I agree with Audrey. I had a hard time going through it, but yeah, another meeting would be good if we could, go through it a little bit more detail. One question I had for Wayne, we have investments, do we not? No, does our interest rate on our investments, is that higher than this loan interest?
At the current time, Greg, no.
Okay, so we'll be charged more interest on this loan than we would be making on our investment, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good question. Hazel, and then I do want to mention Nathan has posted the 10-year plan is different than the infrastructure. So can we get clarification? That 10-year plan is different than the infrastructure plan, correct, Darren?
I was just responding to chat. It's a financial plan, so it does encapsulate infrastructure, but it also encapsulates additional programming and facilities. So it is more in line with a 10-year plan for the organization. But it's a financial plan. So I wouldn't call it an infrastructure plan. I would call it a financial plan.
Okay, Nathan, does that come clear? Perfect. Hazel?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, would the interest amount that you will save by paying it off now, will it be basically the same as a penalty that you would pay for paying it off? What's the difference in those two amounts? Is it a big amount or not?
And that's a good question, Hazel. Right now, I couldn't tell you because the penalty does change. It depends on at what point in time, if we renewed it, what point in time we would pay it off. So there's a different penalty amount if we paid it off after 1 year or after 2 years. So right now, I can't give you an exact amount on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, it sounds like there are a lot of questions still, and I sense that council wants to have a little bit more time with reviewing that plan Darren had sent prior to Christmas. Helen? Helen, you're on mute.
I have no problem moving this. I'm satisfied with what we're being told. I don't know who wants to defer, but I don't.
And Audrey, are you seconding the motion?
Yes, I'm seconding it.
Okay, so Helen, can you then read the entire motion so the community is aware of what is
That's what
being?
the chair's supposed to do. No, I'll read it. Nobody
Michelle,
wants to read it.
One second, Melba. Let Helen
yeah,
read the motion.
Okay, whereas the Six Nations of the Grand River has available cash to pay the loan in full at the time of renewal in the interest of long-term planning and matching cash flows, it is prudent instead to renew the loan for a further term. And whereas the Six Nations of the Grand River is planning to create a long-term financial plan, in brackets is infrastructure plan. And whereas the Six Nations of the Grand River is able to utilize the cash in the immediate future to begin to address a long-term financial plan. And whereas it is expected that the Bank of Canada will increase the prime rate prior to January 31st, 2023. And furthermore, it is expected that the Bank of Canada will also decrease rates within the next 3 years. Therefore, that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council approves to refinance the loan for the White Pines Wellness Center effective January 31st, 2023 with the Royal Bank of Canada at an amount not to exceed $1,210,000 and 0 cents, based on an indicative interest rate of 5.38% as of January 11th, 2023 for a term of 3 years and an amortization period of 10 years.
Okay, so we have Helen moving, Audrey is seconding. Any further questions? Melba?
yeah, I just wanted to comment that I certainly agree with, that this was supposed to be paid off within 10 years. And I have further concerns, over the years. We've asked many times the Health Foundation as to where our funding was allocated, and we never ever did get a full disclosure, financial disclosure to the Health Foundation as to where the money went. We approximately donated close to 500,000 over the years, and never a complete disclosure. So I know it takes time to look over the files and see where exactly the allocation was given, but each time we gave a check, for example, 10,000, most times it was actually mentioned where specific that funding would go to. So we fail to understand. Several people, Sherry Lynn, I think yourself, possibly Michelle, and many of the Health Foundation members who are not with us anymore have tried to get a complete financial understanding. So hopefully we can go forward, and I certainly do agree with motion today. Thank you.
Thanks, Melba. Okay, so we will take this to a vote. All those in favor? Okay, does anybody oppose to this motion? Hearing none, motion is carried. So then recommendation 6.2. To waive
Oh, I'll
second reading.
move. I'll
Moved by
move to
Helen
waive second reading.
and second by Audrey. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Hearing none, that has been moved. Okay, so number 7, I am going to have Wayne or Darren speak to this. It's budget presentations for 2023-24. Wayne, Darren?
Wayne, start, yeah.
Sure, so the budget days that are being requested to be put on chief and council's calendars are March 22nd and 23rd. We got some preliminary dates from Tammy, so that's the 2 days right now that's are being considered.
Okay, so Sherry Lynn has a comment.
I think that's pretty late because usually we do budgets in February at least. Because then we have at least March till end of March to know if all that money is being spent. So we aren't sending the money back. So if we have it here, that doesn't give much time. So I don't know how the other counselors feel, but I think that's too late.
Thank you. Any other comments? Helen?
Yeah, I just questioned, yeah, I'm like Sherry Lynn, I guess. I'm just questioning why it's such a late date. I mean, the end of the year is April 1st. March 31st, I mean. Is there any reason why it couldn't be in February? Somebody?
Anybody?
Jennifer, you
everyone.
want- Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to find my mute button. The budget calendar for this year actually just mirrored the one from last year. I wasn't involved in the process necessarily last year when Anna Cecile set the calendar. So I was actually just trying to follow the same, assuming that that was the timeline that we normally followed.
No, it isn't.
Last year it was March 7th to 11th. So it is a little bit later than it was. And I had asked for it to be scheduled mid-March to sort of mirror the same thing as what happened last year. And those were the dates that were provided.
So is there any reason it can't be done in February?
At this point, if we were looking at the second or third week of February, we could probably do it. I'd have to loop back with all of the directors to expedite the timelines that we've already sort of laid out for them. But I'm sure that we could expedite it a few weeks if we needed to.
When do we get the last quarter financial?
Last quarter, like Q4, so that would
We used
end
to
on
get
March
4
31st.
quarters of financials before, not back in the day, or 4 years ago. We used to get 4 quarters of financials. So in December, we would notice when somebody might have to be turning money back. We haven't been getting those 4 quarter financials the way we used to. So I'm kind of confused because we usually know before the end of the year how much money is going to be sent back.
So right now, Q3 just closed on December 31st, like as in time-wise.
Yeah.
The closing process for the finance team is closing up this week for finishing up any adjustments and stuff like that, and then analysis. And I'm targeting to be able to present to council. I was looking at not the next general finance, but the general finance after that. But again, we could expedite it so that it's at the next general finance into, I guess that would be the first Monday of February. And then Q4 actually doesn't close until March 31st. So it's not possible to have all Q4 before we do budget because.
So, yeah, so it would have been the third one. And it was the one in December, around December, when we would find out how much money was going to get turned back.
If that was the case, Helen, then I would guess that it wasn't a full quarter that would have been presented. Because if you were finding it out in December, then you would need to know November results, which would be period 8.
Okay. I just know we found out before the end of the year
I see.
how much we had to send back.
Right, so it's possible that they did a partial quarter so that you would know in December. And again, I'm not aware of that, but we can present what needs to be presented. And like I said, Q3 results could be presented at the next general finance meeting on the first Monday of February, I believe it's scheduled for.
So if we find out, if we go to the end of March, like March 23rd, like it's being proposed, the directors will have a plan in place as to what they're gonna, how they're gonna deal with the money sent back, or the money kept, or the money they haven't spent. Will they have that? Because usually they have a plan of the money that they haven't spent, if they can keep it. Because sometimes you have to send it back, sometimes you can keep it. They usually have a plan to let us know what they're planning to spend the money on. So would that come at March 23rd as well with the budget?
I can talk to the
Because
I don't don't attend the administration senior administration meetings.
okay.
However, I can pass that along to
Oh.
ask for that plan to be included in their budget presentations.
I know, I understand you probably had a loss here.
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Helen brings up some good points. I mean, we want to see quarterlies and we want to see budget days earlier. Hazel?
Yes, I was just wondering if consideration has been made with regard to timing, because this year, the March break for the schools, now it's going to be the little NHL. Is that the same week as this? I don't know when the actual March break days are.
No, I actually believe that it's the week prior. And I think that's when the scheduling, they were trying to avoid the March break, which I think is why it got pushed to that third week of March.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you
Okay,
then.
council, is there any other comments to budget days being
I do.
scheduled to the end of March? Go ahead, Melba.
I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I agree with February because over the years, there's been, I guess, problems with people getting their reports in, excuse me, on time. And it appears that we have to bring the auditors back, which costs us more money. So maybe that can be avoidable by allowing a few more weeks for the directors to get their financials in place. Thank you.
Thanks, Melba. Audrey?
My question is that we have been, I guess, statement first. We've been trying to reduce vastly the amount of money returned. So I guess that's the part that I'm interested in. So we do not want to send back a lot of money. In fact, we don't want to send it back any money. So I'd just like to know if anybody has any kind of, I guess, insight right now on how much is going to be sent back. And that would be either for Wayne or for Darren or Kate, Nicole, Caitlin. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer, Wayne, is there any?
Yes, I agree with that, Audrey. And that's been a conversation when I've been reviewing quarterly results directly with the directors, is sort of having that understanding at the point of us doing our Q2 review a couple of months ago. They had assured, we're pretty confident that things weren't being sent back. And as time is going on and we're seeing available funds still left unspent, that's something that I have been highlighting to the directors and to Darren to have those conversations for planning to minimize, because of course I agree. And we all agree that we don't want to send back $1, let alone a lot more than that. So that is a conversation that is continuing. I don't have an estimation on hand right now, but that's something that I can follow up with the directors from the last review that I had with them to say, can you update me on sort of what is the risk and what is the amount, so that we can have some sort of an approximation of what that would look like.
And thank you very much for that. And their plan to have it spent by the end of the year.
Yes.
All rolled over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm hearing that council wants to move budget days up till February. I heard a date of the 22nd, 23rd. I do know that council has work that they're going to be doing, so maybe we can add on an extra day to do those budget days. Does that make sense?
Yes, I would appreciate an extra day if that's possible, because I think that the timeline's very tight in the 2 days when we look at the presentation schedule. And if it can I think Darren wants to touch in here, but from my perspective, if we can get the directors in line for that expedited timeline, then that's something that I'll work with them for.
Darren?
Yeah, I think what you're referring to, Michelle, is the retreat is scheduled for the 21st to the 23rd. So I think what Jennifer's referring to is she would prefer not 2 days, but 3 days for budget days, separate from the retreat. So my recommendation is the following week after the retreat would be my recommendation. It's still earlier. It still provides nearly a month to make any adjustments or changes. That's my recommendation. So there's more focus on budgets on their own. So the week after the 21st would be my recommendation, and look at scheduling in that week.
Okay, thanks, Darren. Over to you, Helen, and then we'll wrap this one up.
Yeah, I agree with giving, adding an extra day, because that's a lot of budgets to go through in 2 days. I remember last year, head was just pounding, but rushing through it so fast.
Okay, thank you. So what I hear proposed is the week of February 27th. So what if we did the 27th, 28th, and March 1st? Do I have a mover for that? Or if you don't agree with those dates, propose some dates that week, please.
I'm okay with it.
Do we have a political liaison that meeting, that Monday? So the 20th, 29th, 28th, March 1st, and March 2nd then. Audrey, are you moving?
No, I think that we should work around Mark's schedule. He should be there. And you know how busy his calendar is. Is Tammy here? Talk about his schedule.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now, Audrey, and right now, I think that's far enough in advance where we could move some things that need to be, so he can fully participate.
Okay, so what dates are those again, Michelle, you're recommending?
The 28th, March 1st, and 2nd. Okay, thanks, Tammy, on that. So do I have a mover for those dates? Or do we need to move this? It's not a recommendation, but it's more than planning. Okay, so we have those dates squared up. Perfect. So now let's go back to the renewal. Nope, the 20 unit elders complex. So welcome, Lillian. So we had questions in regards to the motion. So maybe if you can just provide us a really high level overview, and then we'll have discussion.
Okay, so originally, I think Karen and Gail started this conversation over a year ago. I know that social was involved. I had a conversation with Arliss on Friday, so I only learned that on Friday. But essentially what it is a 20 unit elders complex, basically like Sunrise Court, was proposed to be placed over at the Harold Road development. Now, over the course of me kind of taking this over, in discussions I've had with health services and public works, I know that there was some discussion about programming gaps in the fact that we have a fully independent facility and a fully assisted facility. We don't have anything in between where there are health staff on site, which this complex could be used for to kind of fill that gap. It wasn't originally what it was planned for, but I see the need for it, as does health. So I think that's essentially what we want it to be used for. So it would be collaboration between housing, who would actually administer the building itself, and health services, who would provide either PSW or nursing staff to be on site at all times to ensure that the people living there would be taken care of. In this case, we're in preliminary stages, so the drawings have not been finalized. Nothing's really been finalized. We did receive money from ISC in the amount of $651,000 for pre-construction activities, which includes the finalizing of the drawings, the site plan, as well as could potentially include services for utilities. So I know because it's a new development, the piping for the water and everything has been set up to the lot line, but not actually to where the building would be, because that's not been finalized yet. So it would include that, because I know the allocation exceeds what would be used for the drawings, finalizing the drawings themselves. So that part isn't included in Kale Martin's proposal, because that's part of the tendering process. So right now we're just looking for approval to go ahead and finalize that with Kale Martin. So including the drawings, the site plan. And then to give them, once we review all that and finalize that, they would go ahead with the tendering process to get us a final number for what construction would actually cost. This is also the project that I submitted to the Indigenous Communities Infrastructure Fund on December 31st. As they provide a component for infrastructure as well as health. So that's how I submitted it.
Okay, thanks. And so, Audrey, go ahead.
Okay, I will. Thank you. I'd like to know how big it is. Is this the one that's 28 feet by 16 feet, Lillian?
No, it would be significantly larger than that. I think the proposal itself that I included and should have been included in your Dropbox had drawings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that because it's not a finalized stamp drawing, they won't give us dimensions and things like that. But there is a designated section over at Harold Road for this specific building behind where the proposed library was going.
The 12-unit elders complex.
20.
20 units, sorry. Okay, I think it's a good idea, so I'll move on to that when you're ready.
Okay, thanks, Audrey. Any other comments? Sherry Lynn?
I guess with everything that's been going on, plus, are we taking in consideration what we've learned from all the other elders complexes? And if we're having health staff on, is it like 2 bedrooms so they're able to have people to help care for them? Just things that we've run into since I've been sitting here. That's all. Are all these things being considered, I guess?
Yeah, they're all being considered. That being said, because there's health staff on site, and it would be considered a semi-assisted facility, there shouldn't be a need for a caretaker. In the same way that there is with fully independent facilities like Sunrise Court, where the elders are expected to be in a state to be able to care for themselves. There is obviously that caretaker policy that allows that, but this facility itself would have a health component to it, whereby a caretaker wouldn't really be necessary, like a full-time caretaker wouldn't be necessary. That being said, there are 2-bedroom units in this facility, yes.
Are we making any emergency ones? Also too, I guess, just another comment. Is any of them can we at least make it some of them, or at least 1 or 2 emergency situations?
We don't have emergency housing policy within the housing department. So if I have spoken to Darren about this in the past, given across December alone, I received 6 requests for emergency housing. I had spoken to Darren and I said, if we're going to proceed with emergency housing, then council needs to set up a clear policy and what that looks like, what that ranking system looks like, and to determine need in order to do that. But in this specific facility, I'm not setting aside units for emergency housing until we have a policy.
I totally understand that. I'm just bringing it up. I don't need to be, lectured or anything. I was just bringing it up to bring that, we all know it's a concern. And I just wanted it to bring to the forefront, and hopefully council can figure something out, because you're right. There is a lot of things that are going on in our community, and we need to figure out a better plan and for everyone at all ages with emergency.
Thanks, Sherry Lynn. Ellen?
So this is, so it's really what it's going to be called as assisted living, right?
Yeah, it'll be
Assisted living
specially
facility?
assisted, yeah. So not as assisted as they would be as Iroquois Lodge where they're fully
Yeah.
assisted, but this would be one where health staff would be on site in case of emergencies or if
Okay.
residents
Yeah, I'm
need.
glad to see we're doing that. I've been wanting one of these types of facilities for a while because I know they have a lot of them in Brantford and Caledonia and that, and they work really well.
Okay, do we have any other comments? If not, we will go to the vote. Hazel?
Yeah, with regard to that emergency housing, I think that's something that council really needs to take time and discuss and consider and put in place an emergency housing plan. Because you never know what anybody is going to be subjected to. And I think, and I understand housing, they need something to work with. So we need to give them something to work with in cases like that. Thank you.
Thanks, Hazel. So with that, we have a motion.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Melba.
Can I ask a question, Michelle? Yeah.
Sure.
Lillian mentioned that we don't have emergency housing, and is it in a sense that, Lillian, that we do concerning mental health units? And the question connected to that, are they allowed to have someone to assist them, watch over them? And we know that's necessary a lot of times with, especially when they get older and forget to take their medication or whatever problems they have.
So with regards to mental health, they rent units from us, so they're technically the tenant. They have their own policies and their own programming to follow in terms of determining need for the unit and who they're going to allow to move in. We're not really privy to that at housing because it is confidential. It does surround private health circumstances. So we're not privy to what that policy looks like or how their ranking system works. All I'm saying is that if housing is going to provide an emergency housing component to our programming, it needs to be very clear to us how to determine the need, so that we don't have accusations of nepotism, so that we don't have accusations of favoritism and things like that. Because what we're essentially allowing with an emergency housing system is to allow people to skip that wait list. And as we all know, the wait list is very long and the need is extensive. It's more than what we can provide. So that being said, if we're going to have that emergency housing component, it needs to be very transparent. It needs to be very clear to people what that system looks like. And I believe that needs to be determined by council. I mean, we can obviously assist and kind of give circumstances that we've come across. As we all know, we've had a few in the last month alone, about what those needs look like in terms of people requesting emergency housing. A lot of it surrounds health. So if mental health has a system that they've determined and works for them, then I'm sure we could follow those policies and those guidelines to create our own. But housing does need its own before I would be comfortable putting people or designating units to emergency housing.
Thank you.
Okay. That sounds fair, Lillian. Audrey?
Yes, I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of this so that it comes on to an agenda. And whether it's at the retreat or general council. And I would also like to know whose job is this, because council is not supposed to be involved in administration. So now you've, Lillian, it seems like you're asking council to write the policy. And I would think that the policy should be directed by our SAO, our CEO to the directors, and maybe working in conjunction with our admin team, but and then council gets to approve it once it's done. So I guess, Darren, I need your input on this, please.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Audrey.
Good.
It's
Perfect.
exactly right. What we've done is, everyone remembers our ECG group for COVID. What we're doing is we're remobilizing that group with a different mandate, and it's emergency situations. So that would encapsulate housing, but it also encapsulates all the other supports, wraparound supports. We worked through that through the Christmas break with the shooting, et cetera. A lot of devastation in the community. How can we support all of the families, the people involved? So it's not the entire ECG group, but a good portion of that group is coming together to look at those situations, as Lily has highlighted, some specific situations, and what kind of policy could we bring to bear, not just with housing, but other supports. So also in the budget, and I know Jennifer's on the line still, we did profile some budget, like an up to percentage on between, I think, right for now, we're looking at approximately $500,000 just to kind of set the funds aside for what we are calling an emergency fund. So those additional funds would come out of central surplus funds to support this initiative going forward. So that's in the next new fiscal, but we're mobilizing right now. And yes, we would draft policy and bring it back to council for approval with options.
Perfect. Thanks, Darren. And that's what we're used to. Sherry Lynn has a comment.
Yeah, I guess that's good to hear. And I'm glad with Lillian with her explanation, because that's what it's about, you know, everybody to have fair opportunities with emergency housing. So with this, what's being said, I'd like a timeline. When is this going to be presented to council? That's what I want, because so we can, like Audrey said, to keep it going.
Okay. Thank you.
Good
Good discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just quickly, yeah, like I said, we're remobilizing the ECG group. They're convening a meeting, I believe, next week to really get this moving. And there is budget profiled for next fiscal to support this as well. So I would imagine we can provide monthly updates as part of our normal updates on this initiative going forward. But I would imagine that early in the new fiscal, we'll have some policy and programming attached for council's consideration.
Good. Okay. So Helen. Helen, you're on mute.
I know, I'm looking for my button. Well, I hope in part of the planning, Darren, that you're looking at housing as a whole, because to me, emergency housing would be a whole separate sector of our housing program and would require people to be working there. I don't think we can dump emergency housing onto the current housing program with the people they have there. So I'm hoping part of the plan is to develop an emergent housing department or something like that associated with housing, but not directly housing.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. And yes, I 100% agree. And I know Lillian would agree as well. There's a lot already on their plate in terms of they're trying to balance in the wait list, et cetera, and turning over units as quickly as possible for people waiting. So that this is definitely would be a collaborative initiative. And that's why we engaged the ECG group to head this up along with our community emergency planner, which is essentially Ashley and Maya. I try to remember her last name, but that we have people involved to spearhead this. It would definitely be a collaborative initiative. So a hub, emergency hub is kind of how I would phrase it.
Okay. Thank you. So we have the recommendation here. Do I have anybody willing to move recommendation 5.1? Did you move it already, Audrey? I think she did. I didn't write it down. Moved by Audrey, second by Helen. Any final comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Does anybody oppose? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Waive second reading. Moved by Audrey. There's a seconder, Helen. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. Alrighty, thanks Lillian for coming on general finance this morning. So with that, We have no more items on our open session, so we're going to need a motion to adjourn to in camera. Moved by Sherry Lynn, seconder. Greg, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. I want to thank the community for, tuning in, and I wish everybody all a great week. All the best. Take care.